control the things. Ball in the solo way. And if you pattern my trend, I make you my protege. Crossing that soldier race. Niggas don't know them days. Take you in back of the buildings. Make you expose your rage. Take you across the tracks. Make you explode the face. Now you official now. But you got a soul to save. I just been cooking that note. I'm about to drop in the few. Think if I call it the great, the people gon' call it the truth. I ain't really trip on the credit. I just paid all of my dues. I just respected the game. Now my name all in the news. Tripping on all of my moves. Quote me on this, got a lot more to prove. Remember I came in this bitch, fresh out the county with nothing to lose.
No, wanna count on you, but I don't do this shit for nothing. No, not at all. You, but my money real, that you do. Oh yeah, so I don't do this shit for nothing. No, not at all. Oh, I told her I got.
This bitch like I never left. Stand for some shit that you never read. Passing through stages in life, through the ups and the downs, like it's all just another test. Live by the rules like a fucking ref. I got respect in 100 sets. Too many chains need another chest. Playing no games if it wasn't chess. Cut from that cloth that you couldn't stretch. Cut from that circle you couldn't test. Heavily pressured and under stress, even though niggas ain't sure we was a mess. Honest attempt, blame to the left. Judge a young nigga by their interest. Left us no option, what they expect. Only thing we knew for sure is the bait is set. Fuck living basic, I'm taking risks. Fuck what they saying, I'm saying this. Don't waste your judgment, don't make you rich. It don't mean nothing, so fuck them, let's make a grip. Double up, triple up, make assists. Falling so hard you can play a bitch. Lead to the lake if they wanna fish. Make sure them niggas around you stick to the script. It should be written in stone. You should come visit my zone. Don't take my word, double check all of my flows. Ask them how hustle got on, but fuck what you heard. It's for who walk down that road. Showed everything, but
Let's get it. Cool. As always, a little recap from yesterday. Alright, we're kind of just seeing how price reacts after purchase some sell side liquidity, right? Didn't get entirely the quite full turn, right? We ended up working our way down, purging some of those relatively equal lows for the sell side liquidity on the hourly. Right, we're looking at that single low on the 4 hour, those relatively equal lows, and then this 1 hour imbalance down here that we had marked up from quite some time ago. We also stopped right before these relatively equal lows here earlier in the morning. Oh, actually no, that was yesterday's low, right? Just stopped right before those sell side liquidity relatively equal lows. Looking good. Start back up top. See how this weekly candle is about to finish. Right, we got about 7 hours left in this weekly candle. A lot of relatively equal lows here. Right, very obvious relatively equal lows. Right, I can see us purging those in the upcoming week for sure. Especially they're inside this imbalance as well. This weekly imbalance. Right, relatively equal lows. Weekly imbalance. Right. Pretty good draw on liquidity to those relatively equal lows. The interesting part, right, is we're getting this displacement below this short-term low, right, this daily low. Right, so if we get this fair value gap here forming, the SIBI plus this volume imbalance, right, can probably see price trading up into there and then going for those relatively equal lows. Right, depends on how this daily candle closes. Right, if we come up and close it entirely, right, that would be one thing. But if we leave it open, right? Could probably see price trade up into there on next week, and then get that displacement to the downside. Not even displacement, right? We just have to trade to these relatively equal lows, right? Weekly imbalance, and then continue working our way up higher from there. But this is interesting, right? Getting this displacement below the short-term low here. Very interesting, right? If we're looking at just this entire leg right here of price action, right? Those relatively equal lows are just right above it, so we can even trace down a little bit past those relatively equal lows, right, to get to that equilibrium. Maybe even tap into this busy here. One second.
To the side, nigga, know that they ain't fucking with the flow I provide. Yo, notice how I started out of flow has evolved. And me and Rollo styles like Wade and LeBron, and it's all money in, and your bros is in charge. Hoes a menage for the bros carte blanche, and them out of town suites, cause they know we the ones. Equity, nigga, what I've chosen, of course. No 360s, clothing and tour. When I do drop, I'ma blow past niggas, and I toe tag niggas like I told them before. Got flow, got horse. Got dough, get more. Fuck mine, get yours, and the show just started, nigga, hold your applause.
Right, so we can even trade down past these relatively equal lows, get into a discount, right? Some fair value gaps down here that we can trade down into before continue working our way up higher, right? That's the way I kind of see this here. Switch over to the 4 hour. I mean, since we've gotten the displacement, right? We have this all-time highs, right? We had the first displacement below that short-term low, right here, right? But then we got that displacement here, and we've kind of been respecting that as we've been working our way up, right? Respecting this fair value gap, right? And then got that eventual push down, right? So there's a lot of sell-side liquidity. You know, I would anticipate we would trace back somewhat into this move, this down move here. All right, but let's drop down to the 1 hour, right? Let's get into the actual session itself. Right, really no short-term highs, right? The only short-term high we have is from PM session yesterday here. And we don't really have any like clean 1 candle, 2 candle displacements, right? We have this possible 1 hour candle closing like this and possibly creating some displacement. So we'll have to watch out for that. We got about 11.5 minutes left on this hourly candle, right? But other than that, right, there's no real definitive short-term highs. You know, I mean, I like this on the 15-minute, right? Actually, I think those are relative equal highs, doesn't it? Yeah, those are relative equal highs, so it doesn't even, not the same as a single high. Yeah, I mean, but we trace into these fair value gaps here after breaking the lows. Respected that. Continue working our way up. Right, we have a displacement above the short-term high. Never trade back down to this fair value gap. Right, then we had NFP drop 830, creating this low. This is what I'm kind of eyeing over everything right now, just within the session, right? Is we have the news drop right here, 830, and creates this low. Boom. Right, creates this low, also creates this high. Right, we rate the highs. Right, we rate this high here. Here's the high from the news dropping. We rate this high. Build up sell side liquidity. right, the equal highs again, right, and now we're currently right here. So it's just a little interesting seeing these, right, these relatively equal lows here. Sell side liquidity be untapped, right? That is very interesting. Let's go see if we have any buy cycle liquidity. This was something I was watching in the PM session yesterday. All right, getting a little 3-minute imbalance to the upside after that huge sell-off during the morning session. Clean this up a little bit. Right, so in regards to liquidity inefficiencies, right, we do have this 15 minutes to be up here, but right below that we have this guy. Right, and if we look at this range right here, right, we're already at 50%. So possibly trading up into this 15-minute CB. Well, honestly, I really want to see that smaller time frame shift in market structure to aim for these relatively equal lows down here. Right, just the fact that, right, those could be protected for a while, but if we do get that shift in market structure, right, that would be a very obvious draw on liquidity, right? But it's just waiting for the market to do its thing and show its hand first, right? We can have some targets, but it has to show its hand that it wants to get there first. So we got to be patient. We'll wait for this. Possible turn. Just enter the first AM macro session. All right, so keep that in mind. Inside a small little 5-minute fair value gap, right, currently. Also have this single high buy side liquidity inside this inefficiency as well. Right, possible areas we could draw to. Yeah, we purchased a lot of sell side liquidity. Look at all this sell side liquidity that we got captured. That got captured here. We've been waiting for that sell side liquidity for a couple weeks. We've had that marked up. Finally purged through it, which is good. All right, we're getting some decent price action to the upside. Right, but it's nothing too crazy that I see potential setups just yet. Right, just yet. Yeah, that would be the only thing I'm really interested in. Maybe we come up to a premium, right? Get a shift to market structure to aim for lower prices. Not really looking to go long, right? Not really looking. I prefer the shorts, in my opinion. Right, in my opinion. We also, let's check this weekly range we got going on here. Yeah, we're already past 20% of weekly range. Right, currently inside that 50. Currently inside that smaller 5-minute fair value gap. Right, but I think it's also above the 50% if I'm not mistaken. Let me see here. I think that is already above the equilibrium and a premium as well. Let's see here. Yeah, it's actually right on there. Like spot on. Right, this current fair value gap that we're in right here on the 5-minute. Spot on. For the fair value gap and a premium.
Shady off the block and we'll smoke and drive. Politicking on the block to make it multiply. Keep some bitches on the team from the other side. Keep at least a pound of green, motherfucking right. 30 hours in the spot, going overtime. Then we pull up to the Fox and don't hold a dime. You know this life, it got a cold design. How you go from me, lobster tail to ocean prime. The chain to a smoker and thrown on the line. But when them gates close, keep an open mind. It ain't no force in this world like a focus drive. Focus on yourself like the only child. You make your dream realer and you make your team better. You wake your game up and you make your scheme better. They say this time, won't be like the last time, But this time, I'ma do it like my last time. I'ma go hard, my nigga.
Right, we're still inside that first AM macro session. Just looking for price structure to form, right, more neatly on like the 1 minute, 2 minute, 3 minute. All right, those lower time frames. I'm also seeing how these 5-minute candles are closing inside this 5-minute CB. Now that we're in that premium, I want to see how price is reacting right here. Right, because we also got to think how much we're tracing back into that daily potential CB. Right, if price wants to leave this open, right, this candle can either close something like this, right, to leave this potential CB open, right, or it can retrace and turn it to a down close candle, right, or just come off the top and start trading down a little bit and get like a little small close candle, right. So kind of just thinking about that. Right, we are above the open, right, if it does want to turn into a down close candle. There's no obvious, right, no major points of liquidity I see besides the pure fact this being an NFP low, right, and then this coming and making relatively equal lows. But we don't have any like single lows inside of fair value gaps or anything like that, which would be a nice draw in combination with these single lows or these relative equal lows here. So we just gotta sit patient.
Busting on your ball fade. Police hit the lights, that's a car chase. Looking back at my life, make my heart race. Dance with the devil and test all faith. I was thinking chess moves, but it was God grace. Crooked ass whoever till we all straight. With no shame, I peep game and it's all fake. South Central state of mind, high crime rate. Homicide, hate gang banging to get you all day. But look at my face.
Keep taking me higher and higher.
Told Cali bounce the phone to the bar break.
Don't you know that the devil is a liar? I know they'd rather see me down, put my soul in the fire. But we keep going higher, higher, higher. Oh Lord, can you feel it?
Pop at you lanes, cause I'm sucker proof. Don't play no games, boy, I'm buster proof. Pop at you lanes, cause I'm sucker proof. Don't play no games, boy, I'm buster proof. Pop at you lanes, cause I'm sucker proof. Don't play no games, boy, I'm buster proof. Pop at you lanes, cause I'm sucker proof. Don't play no games, boy, I'm buster proof. Look, I don't give a fuck what you niggas done. I don't give a fuck where you niggas from. Throw you in your mouth, go and get a gun.
Right, so the 5-minute candle so far respecting this 5-minute Cibi. Right, when we're looking at potential areas to shoot for, right, we do have this single low here, but we have no shifts in market structure just yet, so these can easily get respected, right, without showing any signs of reversing, right? But if we're looking at short-term lows, short-term highs, honestly, not the cleanest, right? At least on these smaller time frames, right? This is kind of just like all grouped together price action. There's no really definitive short-term lows, short-term highs until you get to right here, right? If you're looking at all this upper price action, there's nothing until you get to right here, right? That's a short-term low, but even then, that's still not even the cleanest. We're possibly making a short-term low here. All right, if we trade above this short-term high, but even then, it's not the cleanest, So we'll keep waiting. We'll see if something presents itself. If not, we'll just be sitting on the hands and closing out the week, waiting for getting ready for next week. Right, we got that presidential election on Tuesday, plus FOMC on Thursday. So that should bring some good volatility to the markets for sure. Right, I don't consider this a short-term low, right? So this is not a shift in market structure, right? In my opinion, just a pure fact, this thing took. I mean, it's the highs and the lows, right? No clean short-term highs or lows being formed just yet, right? If we create this short-term low here, come up, trade, purge some liquidity, and then get that displacement, right? I'd rather wait for something like that. Right, but so far those 5-minute candles are respecting that 5-minute Sibi. Right, so I'll be watching that. Right, 5-minute Sibi we have here in this light shaded gray area. Right, and you can see the candles came right up to it, and the candle bodies respect it. Right, the wicks, sure, painted outside the lines. Right, they do the damage, but notice how the candle bodies are staying inside that fair value gap so far. So looking good, possibly creating a short-term low here, right, which would be good for some displacement below. All right, but we'll have to see how these next few 5-minute candles close. We got about 3.5 minutes left on this current 5-minute candle, so sit patiently and see what gets presented here. Right, if we're looking at low-hanging fruit, I mean bare minimal, I can see price trading back into this 15-minute fair value gap. This busy. Right, if we don't end up purging for these relatively equal lows, right, NFP lows. So let's just kind of check the range. Yeah, that's over 10 handles, even from where we're at right now into that fair value gap. So that's definitely enough range. All right, we'll see how this 5-minute candle closes. All right, getting a little push to the upside here. Let's see, let's look to the left some more. Haven't quite taken out that short-term high yet. All right, that could just be some buy-side liquidity. Talking about this guy right here. There we go. It's like just like a small little short-term high. Nothing too crazy, right? It's not a significant high inside of an imbalance. It was just kind of like a short-term high just within some price action here. You see these relatively equal highs, right? Just within all this price action. So this is one of those interesting cases, right? This could be one of those interesting cases, right? Let me see here real quick. Right, this could be one of those cases where, right, if price starts to show its hand, right, and get that displacement, we could get, you know how they always say like it's not the exact same, but it rhymes. So normally we're looking for market structure like this, for like a typical shift in market structure, right? Something like this: displacement below short-term low, fair value gap, wait for price to come into that fair value gap, right, execute on there, right? That's like the traditional way. But there's also this, right? Right, we get a move up like this, retracement, and then displacement below short-term low inside of this leg. See that? So there's like kind of two shifts in market structure that can show up, right? But if we take the high here, then you know it's not that second ladder case, right? This one. All right, but kind of just seeing how price rapidly went up, purged that buy side liquidity. Right, we'll see how price is reacting after that. Right, not really interested in the longs, right? So just have to be really patient to make sure price tilts its hand for the shorts, right? Because we're not far away from that other set of buy side liquidity we're talking about inside that 15-minute SIBI. We'll drag this guy over. We can get a reference point on that. Right, so we're just staying patient, right? We're not that far away from that 15-minute SIBI, you know, above price. Let's see here. Let's zoom back out, right? If we're looking at what's a premium, what's a discount, right? Just basic price. You can tell we're already above 50%, right? Which is a premium. Now, our closest, more major, significant fair value gap is this 15-minute SIBI right here. And we also have some smaller, minor, but still significant, right? 5-minute single high inside the SIBI, right? So just eyeing those, right? So like, even if we do think there could be a short-term premium here, right? I think there could be a short-term premium being met and satisfied. We could drop down, pricing return to this like 15-minute SIBI or 15-minute busy here, right? And continue working its way up higher, right? Because that would technically be a discount, right? It's below 50% of this range from yesterday, right? Of this big leg, this big movement down, right? This price leg here, dropping below 50% of that, right, is considered a discount. But just the way price flows flowing, putting in those lows from NFP, not being purged, right? I see those as liquidity, right? It just purges one side of liquidity and hasn't purged the other. So that's where I get that more short bias from, right? We're also coming into that 15-minute imbalance here, right? Which is looking good. Right, if we're more bearish, we don't want to see that fully get traded to, right? If it is gonna be pretty bearish, right, we don't want to see that full fair value gap get traded to. Something to keep in mind, right? Just like little price signatures that are just like tilting its hand either way, right? That's the way I kind of look at it. It's just looking for all these signatures on like, what is it respecting, what is it not respecting. You know, it's kind of like little mini tests that go on, and it kind of shows what kind of person they are. You know, are they doing this? Are they not doing this? Like, you say something, how are they responding? You know, that's what we're kind of seeing within price here, right? What is price doing? What is price not doing, right? If you put a test up to it, right, what is it? How is it responding? How is price responding to that test, right? So if price doesn't fill in this entire SIBI, right, that is telling us something. If it does, like this, and completely fills it in, and we expand past it now, disrespecting that 5-minute SIBI, then that also shows something, right? But also taking consideration, that was just something that I saw on a premium on the lower time frames, right? These 15-minute highs and lows and these 15-minute inefficiencies are definitely more prominent than these 5-minute SIBIs, for sure. So we'll see how we treat this 15-minute SIBI that we're currently in, and then kind of take it from there. See if it fills it all the way in or leaves a little portion of that open. Right, so we ended up trading to the top of that fair value gap. So let's see. Right. Let's see how we're acting as we get closer to this 10:30 turn here. Right, this also 15-minute candle is just starting off, so it's got plenty of time inside of there. I think that, yeah, okay, interesting. That 15-minute consequent encroachment of that, or also the midpoint, right? The midpoint of this fair value gap is called the consequent encroachment, right? Notice how the candle bodies are respecting that so far. So we'll kind of determine if we get that close underneath the consequent encroachment of that fair value gap, we could be getting a possible sell setup, right? We just got to be patient and wait for it to tilt its hand. All right, if we're talking about candle closures, right? All right, we're also inside this 1 hour fair value gap here. But if we're also talking about candle closures, right? If price does close below this consequent encroachment, right, of this 15-minute CB, that would make sense, right? Why would that make sense? Because this candle is starting off bullish. And what does not every, but a good majority of down close candles start off as, right? Think about the power of 3 that we went over a couple days ago, right? It's going to start off bullish in the first half of the candle, right? Which we're currently inside right now. So we'll see in the back half of this candle, if we start seeing that movement to the downside, right? Setting up for that down close candle, right? Since this first candle respected the consequent encroachment of this wick. Right, these are just like little signatures I'm looking out for in price to kind of give me more information about what price can potentially do. Right, what is it wanting to respect? What is it not wanting to respect? All right, we'll lock this in just for keeping. Right, so we'll see if in this first half of this candle, right, we stay bullish, right, and then once we turn into that the back half of the candle, right, the last 7.5 minutes of this 15-minute candle. We'll see how we're reacting, right? Are we getting more displacement to the upside? Or are we getting some displacement to the downside? Wanting it close below the consequent encroachment of this 15-minute CB. Right, so we'll wait. We'll be patient for that. We'll see that how that ends up setting up in a few minutes here.
So rules came with no questions. Wrong and live by, but it's no exceptions. Was young and reckless with loaded weapons. It's code of ethics and self-destruction. When it's over, you left with nothing. This life ain't it, boy, better check the subtext or the fine print. Felt entitled to this fly shit. Felt like every bad bitch should be on my dick. Felt like niggas lied to us on some fraud shit. Fuck it, that's the how the ball bounce on some wall shit. Right here with all my brothers on some squad shit. All money, one nation under God shit. Neighborhood MC hustle on some ball shit. AKA nigga born broke, that'll die rich. What they call you, where you from, nigga? In my city, that was question number one, nigga. Looking at the legend I become, nigga. I can't help but feeling like I am the one, nigga. What they call you, where you from, nigga? What they call you, where you from, nigga? What they call you, where you from, nigga? I can't help but feeling like I am the one, nigga.
The nigga had the nerve to walk up on me, ask me where I'm from. I told him I ain't banging, didn't listen, so I gave him one. Knocked us a diddy one. Nigga tried to hit him up. Now he wanna get him up and set it up and wet it up. Now I'm from the hood, checking niggas on the daily. Started off BG, OG, baby. Real live homie, 2 heaters in my seat. Had to check a nigga at the Compton swap meet. Where you from? I don't bang. Where you live? Where you hang? Say the wrong thing, then bang. Lights out, kites out to the homies in the pen. Crippin' in the city, we ain't letting cuz in. A lot of niggas camouflage, try to blend in to fit in. Get a hood rat so they can sit in. But if she got a brother, a daddy, or a cousin, they hit your ass up like a motherfucker. Where you from, cuz?
What they call you, where you from, nigga? In my city, that was question number one, nigga. Looking at the legend I become, nigga. I can't help but feeling like I am the one, nigga. What they call you, where you from, nigga? What they call you, where you from, nigga? What they call you, where you from, nigga? I can't help but feeling like I am the
Bitch, I'm
one.
dope, way too dope. I'm talking about a motherfucker had to sell dope. I had to chase dreams, I was in the ghetto with a tattoo artist and a few extendos. I had to make moves, it was confidential. Bring the drama to your ass like we banging death row. My bros both started in the west side with an Alpine bumping on the bass lines. I snuck out my house with before the bedtime with the goons in the Jeep ride on a test drive. Guns in the stash, who the fuck wanna trip? I fuck with your hoes, but don't fuck with my clique. We murder your style, we smoke loud in this bitch. Gang unit pulled me over when they seen us in the whip. Gang unit pulled us over when they seen us in the whip. I didn't wanna do it, but I had to sell dope. I didn't wanna do it, but I had to sell dope. Mama tried, but there ain't no thing like homie love. I keep on getting faded. Mama tried, but there ain't no thing like homie love. Get it? That's how we do it in LA.
Nah, I got a 40 on my waist, back in the safe, 30 in the clip, like back in the day.
Right, so we're not gonna fight price here. Right, if we don't see any showing signs that it wants to go to downside yet, that is completely fine. Right, we'll just be patient. Maybe it wants to retrace deeper into this fair value gap, right, before working its way down. But it, how do you say it? I would anticipate that we do turn at some point, right? It's usually I mean, sure, right? Let's see this, right? We get a lot of down movement, right? But with no major buy side liquidity and such, you know, I would anticipate that we do end up retracing back and filling some of these inefficiencies that we're leaving behind. You know, we did get that nice swing below the open if this candle does want to close very bullish, right? Got that nice little down movement during London session, which is very nice. Let's check out that daily too, right? I mean, it would be a complete upset, right? In my opinion, if we completely close this inefficiency in, like if we completely close that in, right? It's not displacing below this short-term low just to displace it. It's purging liquidity and going for inefficiencies. But the fact that we didn't purge these relatively equal lows, I feel like we would have if that was the case, right? You purge the relatively equal lows, you don't leave this SIBI behind, right? And then you get that good displacement to the upside, completely closing in this potential SIBI. Then I would be like, okay, we are still very, very bullish. But the fact that we didn't, like, we just built up more sell side liquidity to the downside, right? So it would make sense, right, if we did form this potential SIBI that we have here, right? For those of you that don't know, right, a SIBI, right, if we're looking at 3 candles here, candle 1, candle 2, candle 3, do you notice how between candle 1 and candle 3 there's no price action? We just have this low and the current candle's high, and this big block, right? This big candle block in between, right? That is a sell side imbalance, buy side inefficiency. That is called a SIBI, right? Also known as like a fair value gap, right? But fair value gap is not directional. You can have bullish fair value gaps and bearish fair value gaps, right? Which is SIBIs and BISIs. So we're looking at this potential SIBI forming here, right? Why do I say potential? Because this hourly or this daily candle hasn't closed yet, right? We still have like 6.5 hours, right? So a SIBI can't be created until there's candle closures, right? Until this candle closes. Once we get this candle closed, then we would call this a SIBI, right? It would be like cemented in. But until we get that, it's only a potential, right? A potential SIBI. So with that being said, right, I would anticipate that, you know, these relatively equal lows that we have down here will get traded to, right? Also, potentially, I would say in combination with that thesis, that narrative, this potential SIBI also gets created. Since we displaced below this short-term low here, if we get this potential SIBI, right, I can see price just coming up, right? We get a little shift in market structure to the downside. Then we come down, we purge this liquidity down here, right? Which would be also taking out those lows down there. Possibly trading into this fair value gap. It doesn't make a line. Oh, never mind. Right, also trading into this possible fair value gap down here, right? And then we see that shift in market structure to the upside, right? I think this is a better little tool. Yeah, we trade up into the SIBI, then we trade down, possibly trade into this fair value gap here, taking out these relatively equal lows, right? And then we get that shift in market structure on the lower time frames, aiming for all-time highs, right? Something like that if we get this SIBI. But we also have the elections, which is like a manual intervention, right? FOMC and election. So, but even with that, I would say it would still be in tune with that same thesis, right? If we do leave this SIBI behind, right? If we do leave this SIBI behind, right? So that's just something that I'm watching. But look how much cleaner this price action that we're forming here on the 1 minute compared to this little slop fest right here inside this 5 minute. Look how much cleaner we're putting in short-term highs, short-term lows here, right? We have this nice down close candle, right? Up move, right? Nothing here. We just have some relative equal lows, right? But look at how we have this small little 1 minute busy here. Zoom in a little bit, right? Look at this guy right here. This is more clean order flow, and look at how the candles just fill that inefficiency in and then keep moving. It's working its way up higher, right? That is nice. This is more nice price action, right? Another one here, nice little short-term low, trading up into that 15-minute SIBI, right? But we have a nice definitive short-term low, right? With only what, 3 candles. Very nice. And what do you know, coming up on that 10:30 turn. All right, so now we're in a more deep premium, right? Compared to before when we're down here. We're just at just above 50%, so it's a slight premium. Bare minimal if price wants to reverse, but now we've traded up into this upper 15-minute SIBI, right? So that I think we're looking at maybe like 80% of this move we've already retraced to. Let's check it out. Maybe 80%. I don't know. We don't need these extensions on here. Let's see here. 0.8. 0.8. Yeah, so we've already retraced about 80% of the move from yesterday. All right, we don't need that guy on there. These should all be extensions just to clean this up a little bit more. Wait, is this a different color? Oh no, it's just not highlighted. Got him. All right, so we'll make all these clean. 3.5, 4, 4.5, 5. That's some really far standard deviations away, but nonetheless, right? And then we can make these 0.7, or we'll start off with 0.7. Wait, 2. Yeah, 0.7. Right, all these other ones, we can just turn them black. These are useless for us as of now. Same with these guys. Just to make it easier on the eyes to form to see which ones we're using, which ones we're not. Cool. Cool. Yeah, so we're already in between that 80 to 70% of the range, right? This one should be 0.2. 0.5, then 1. Cool. All right, so we are in that upper 15-minute Tibi that we actually wanted price to trade back into yesterday, right? When we're taking out those short-term lows, right? That was like a bare minimal kind of low-hanging fruit fair value gap that we could end up trading back into in the morning session yesterday. If you recall, right, hop in yesterday's session to see my whole thought process, right, from the morning. But let's go check out this 15-minute Tibi price action we got going on here. Be watching the short-term low that we're talking about here. Let's see if we start disrespecting bullish fair value gaps, or aka busies, right? Like, are we still, are 1 minute candles still respecting this guy or not, right? That's kind of another thing. Once we start disrespecting fair value gaps, bullish fair value gaps that we should be respecting, right? Then that could be a indicator too. Not an indicator, it's like just like a slight tilt of hand, right? Slight tilt of hand, right? Because we still got to shift below this short-term low here in order for that to be a shift in market structure, right? Trade below this short-term low. We would have to leave this guy open, right? This potential SIBI open, and then kind of take it from there. But we shall see. Let's see what kind of range we're working with here as well. Oh yeah, pretty tight range. But we have to wait for that displacement below this short-term low here. Trace. To the bay, just foolish. Alright, so we're going to see if we keep respecting this 1 minute busy or if we start disrespecting it. Right, we're just past that 10:30 turn. Just the fact that we're real close to a possible shift in market structure, right? This would be acceptable for the setup, We just have to be patient.
Nigga off the top. How you doing, baby? I know you still think about me. Quit playing, hit a nigga line. You know I fuck with you. So quit playing with me. Let me talk to you. Baby, I can do a lot for you. I can be the one you can call when you down. I can be the one you can call when you land. Why you looking sexy like that? Quit playing. Hair on point in her body like that. I'm working on trying to be the best that I can. Believe in yourself, put trust in your plan. You make a nigga wanna jump fresh, dry the rat. Smoking, cooling, laughing, was heading. Half moon bay just to grab some lunch. I was giving up, but you came in clutch. I've been texting baby girl a couple of months. She make a street nigga wanna fall in love with her. Sure. You know I fuck with you. Man. But I brought G with me. Sure.
Okay, this is an interesting setup now, right? This is kind of like what we took earlier. Was it this week or last week? If we get a closure below that low, we're gonna be looking for, yeah, we're gonna be looking for this here, this first fair value gap here. One tick above this wick here, which would be right there.
A nice day on the block. The trap is moving, the hose is out.
Why is it not having the stop loss?
Body is nice. Your man ain't home. I'm hitting the night. I'm heading to the motherfucking stop.
Why can you not put a stop loss on this?
Condoms in the water for show. Bounce out, hit the kill switch, ready to go. Old bitch on my line and she ready to hoe. See you on the internet with them fake ass.
Wait, why are you not able to put a stop loss on that?
Check it out. I make a lot of money in Mac. And if you want that little bitch, you can have that back. And these brand new kicks match clean with the hat. And this fresh white tee just to cover the strap. I be all around the states and I'm rocking like that. You be stalking the bitch. I be making them racks. Always knew that I make it. Always knew you be
A sell limit.
socks from Macy's. Daily drive a Mercedes. See you looking
Hello?
bitch, drop them digits. You playing hard to get.
Why are you not able to add a stop loss to this?
But it's time to fuck around. Sweatpants on, still rock the 4 pound. Real street nigga, get the bag in the mouth. Frisco nigga, but got ties in the south. Whole lot of motherfucking money in it.
We will do it the old-fashioned way.
She still never met another nigga like me. Fresh ass nigga, and I keep it so P. Probably never follow on the gram, but I still tap. Bent the little bitch over twice, and I killed that. I know she probably wanna be my main bitch real bad. So many diamonds in my chain, make 'em feel bad. $100,000 ain't shit. I need
There we
real
go.
bad. Fuck all the chimney shit.
Right, so we're looking at something like that. Why above this wick, right? Because this is the first fair value gap that's traded, right? But this is this displacement below that low. This wick has liquidity right above it, but this is also the first fair value gap that we wanted. That was first created, that we're looking for on the first shift in market structure. So, right, we could put our entry right above that wick. Right, there's also we just have to give permission in order to come up into here, but we also have this fair value gap here as well, you know, this little setup, right? It's basically like two setups here, right? We could just come up, we don't have to come up to that full upper fair value gap, right? We could just respect this lower one, but this was the first fair value gap that formed, right? When we're looking for this shift in market structure here, this is the upper one. So good risk to reward there. And this is that shift in market structure we're looking for coming out of that higher 15-minute CB. So we'll see if we get filled here. Plenty of room. Plenty of room to the downside for low-hanging fruit. Right, if we're looking at the 15-minute, right, this is just on top of that first 15-minute fair value gap. And if we see, look at this here, consequent encroachment of this 15-minute CB. It looks like we are respecting it. Look at that. Right, Candle Body's respecting it perfectly.
I'm trying to crack something. A whole lot of money in this brown bag. Is it real? I just had to ask. Good tricks.
Right, see how we're respecting these civvies now.
Dick got it coming back. I ain't with the fuck around. Head so good, make me come around. Gotta be smooth when my son around. All of a sudden, everybody needs something now. Let a nigga shine. Tryna get hit like a line. I need my feet like a fine. Meet me in the city round 9. Came through, I was cleaner than the bitch.
Let's see where that lower 15-minute civvy is. Yeah, I think we just tapped into it right now.
Working like this, scrape down. This the one. I ain't gotta tell you, bitch, you know where I'm from. Frisco. It get active. Bounced out.
Don't want to see a trade too far away from this fair value gap, right? Or get that bullish shift in market structure, right? Something we don't want to see happen as we're coming back up into this entry. Right, we kind of just want to see it be efficient, tap into it, get a second shift in market structure. Right, but we'll let that do its thing.
Meet me out in Napa, we got wine to taste. Which whip today? I don't even wanna fuck, just lips today. One thing I don't got is time. Every bitch in my stable, a dime. Yeah, I got a few girls, I don't hide them. NYC when I first smoked salt. Baby girl, what you wanna eat today? Your makeup in here on fleek today. I'm not a trick, baby. I got nothing to take, but a whole lot of game, we got money to make. Break a bitch like a bad habit, I gotta have it. I want it, then I grab it, and then I stash it. Mash it through the traffic, swiping plastic. I know you want it, stop acting so bashful. Cash. You doing good, baby. That feel good shit. Damn, bet you got back. Looking like something that a nigga might tap. It's feeling like 2019 all again. 87 vet, me and Trey in the wind. Touchdown in Vegas, did a play at the win. I'm reaching in my pocket and I'm thumbing through a 10. I put the foreigns up cause it's time to fucking get it. I hear my nigga Carter, we ain't dropped in a minute. You the type of nigga hit your brother with the jerry. I'm the type of nigga skirt, and I'm a clan. I'm living life now cause tomorrow not promise. I'm fucking with my niggas kick back at St. Thomas. I be sticking him over. I be sticking him over. Nigga, I be sticking him over. I see you hating on me, I don't give a fuck. I'm trying to make it out, trying to run it up. I be sticking him over. I need a bigger goal, I've been feeling stuck. Cause nigga, it's summer, I'ma live it up. I'm sliding in my truck, about to bust another move. About to run it up, show you niggas what it do. Wrist costs $1, but I can flip it for a $2. Different type of nigga, hop a roar and some tools. Put it in my hand like, then it's cool. Smoking on sun, this cool. A1 top notch, all a nigga do. You a grown man, bro, it's time to get this loot. You sitting on the couch and you playing 2K. I'm feeling like a coach, I just keep making plays. I roll with a little straight up, you just in case. All I wanted was 10 and a brand new Benz. Little ice on my wrist and some badass bitches. I've been drinking and I've been smoking and shit. Only thing on my mind is hoeing a bitch. Gotta make it out the game, shit been real. Stressed out, down bad, shit been ill. 2X white tee with the 40. Don't be coming around me like you know me. Smoking kush in the back of a Rover. If she looked, then she took, yeah, she own me. Any nigga can fuck that bitch. I don't know why you cuff that bitch. Every time I hit the city, I get that feeling. Flashback, park 55, chasing a million. Tell a bitch roll up, I'ma post this out. I can't really call it pimpin', I just love this cash. What's happening? Ride through the city with these woods on my lap and a pocket full of huns. I'm just checking my traps. To live like this, you gon' have to take L's, you gon' have to fall off, you gon' have to bounce back. Have you ever lost it all? 100,000 to a rack. God trade everything to have my grandma back. Had to cut baby off, she wasn't rocking like that. 15 for the sweats, cause I got it like that. The road trips was lovely, the money was good. First young nigga with the S5 in the hood. And I got it out the mud, y'all ain't gave me shit. So this nigga started hating, that's when I got rich. And just like some little hoes, they jumped on my dick. All of a sudden niggas telling me they rocking and shit. But what's niggas at when I was on the Greyhound? Pack on me trying to watch out for K9. We ain't gotta talk, dude, cause I paid that. Real niggas
tech. They like June, why you never got security? Cause there's nothing in this life that can fear me. All the real niggas really go feel me. And all the real bitches really go here. What's that? Ride through the city with these woods on my lap. In a pocket full of huns, I'm just checking my traps. To live like this, you gon' have to take L's. You gon' have to fall off, you gon' have to bounce back. Have you ever lost it all? 100,000 to a rack. I trade everything to have my grandma back. Had to cut baby off, she wasn't rocking like that. 15 for the sweats, cause I got it like that, yeah. And bitch, everything I do 100 done, you know what I mean? Bouncing out that photo, motherfucking spaceship, you know what I mean? Drinking the motherfucking green juice, you know what I mean? Regular shit. Numbers. Cardo. Sadney. And bitch, I'm go do numbers, you know what I mean? Sun slide. Full tank only when I hit the gas station. Larry, what you doing? Bitch, I'm back chasing. Gamed up. I can lace you. Eating no hibachi with a bitch named Rachel. Usually, crucially, this trap shit ain't new to me. I beat that kitty so good she got used to me. I got hoes in Beverly, bitch, I'm not settling. Juice with the celery, 10 in the magazine. To the motherfucking rich. The bitch that I wanna hit me up, so I'm lit. Baby, how you doing? I'm too legit to quit. $1 million home, she gon' choose up quick. Bitch, I ain't stopping. 4-5 rockin'. Cardo had the chopper. AMG mobbing. New sock rockin'. You be click hopping. I be Steve jobbing. Mackin' on the bopper. Number. First off, I don't owe a nigga shit. Run it up, take a chance, get rich. Sliding back to back in them things. I'm just a young nigga getting paid. Drop top.
Right, so if you look at that, right, only traded back up into this little small little fair value gap before we got that displacement to the downside. All right, which is let me see if that's a 2-minute shift as well. Not really a 2-minute shift, just a 1-minute shift. Right, that's all I was talking about. We don't have to, price does not have to retrace all the way back up into this higher fair value gap, or even this higher fair value gap within this down leg here. But that was just the setup that I wanted. Right, so we're coming later into the session, right? So we will not take that. We got some good displacement to where we're trying to go, which is that first 15-minute sibby or busy, right? Yeah, feeling some good inefficiencies in right now. Trading back down into that 5-minute sibby that we had marked up down here. And we don't have any other really short-term lows or highs, right? It was just kind of like that 1 minute. That 1 minute order flow that we're watching. Right. Right, if we're looking at highs and lows on other time frames, if I'm looking at this price leg here, right, we don't have any short-term lows that we just displaced underneath. Right, besides the 2 minute, we have the short-term low, which created this fair value gap here. So maybe we can come up there and get a second shift in market structure. But yeah, that would kind of be like the only thing, right? If we come up back up into here, maybe we trade into this 15-minute sibby that we're watching and then get that second shift in market structure. That would kind of be the only thing that I would be interested in during this second AM macro as well. Right, other than that, not really. But if we talk about the consequent encroachment, right, how we're talking about the consequent encroachment of that wick on the 15-minute, look at how, right, we're looking for it here. Look at how the consequent encroachment gets respected here on this upper 15-minute sibby, right? It respects it pretty much perfectly. A little bit painting outside the lines, maybe one tick, if that. But notice how, right, the consequent encroachment gets respected of that 15-minute sibby that we're watching. Remember, deep premium. Deep premium. We're in that upper 80% of the down move. So something to watch out for. Take note of. Right, so let's see if we can get back up here and get a second shift in market structure. That would be the last thing that I'm really interested in. Right, we come back up into here, we trade back up into these upper fair value gaps, and then we get that second shift in market structure. Right, then I would be aiming for, if we don't purge this low here, right, these relatively equal lows, I'll be looking for that as a target.
Sipping this motherfucking orange juice and shit. Fuck you, man. Nigga, I dropped 60 in the motherfucking Nash. Nigga, this have been corners. You know what I'm talking about? Slide,
Right, but what about like this is some good order flow, right, that we're seeing, that we are waiting for price to tilt its hand that it wants to go to the downside. Right, even if it's on the smaller time frames, right, it's the same thing. It's the same thing as seeing order flow on the higher time frames. Just the significance of that order flow is different depending on what time frame it's on. Right, think about that. Right, because we could still continue that bullish order flow now that we've retraced down, filled some inefficiencies in, and keep working our way up higher. But why would I wait for a second shift in market structure up here? Right, because then that could lead to a more significant shift in market structure to the downside. Right, but that doesn't mean I can't capture some handles to the downside without getting that larger shift in market structure, just based off of premiums, right? The premiums and session liquidity. Right, but more than likely we'll be sitting on the hands. Right, just given we're in the latter portion of the session.
Tapped in with Mike, got the old school hit. Sliding down High Street in Oakland and shit. Saw my old game, so I stopped and waved. Damn, I ain't seen this bitch in days. Car wash pimping, I'm macking son. Every time you see me, I'm stacking son. I gotta stay healthy on the bitch. Moving, grooving on my shit. Re-rock, flip a lot, moving with a 6-shot. Bought it how I wanted, so I went and kept the whip stock. Ballin' nigga, no you not, nigga, use a mark. Get you some money and get up out a nigga pocket. Asking me questions like June with a beam at. Okay, you bought the AMG, I seen that. And I don't even trap no more, this all rap. Everything a nigga talk about is all facts, nigga. Yeah, nigga had to step it up. Yeah, damn, man, off top out the mud. Yeah, going hard on the slug. Looking at our pictures like damn, I kinda miss you. Anything you need off top, you can hit me. Life getting crazy, shit getting tricky. It's just something about you, man, it's better when you whip. Flight to the D, don't trip, it's on me. Then I'ma lay you down, I'ma give you what you need. There's so many things running through my mind. I don't know why, but I hope I get a chance to see you, cause it's been a minute. I like when you wear your hair like that, stop tripping. And how can I resist when it feels so right? So fuck all that texting, babe, I'm about to book the flight. It's happening. And I'ma do the same for you, baby, for real. How can I resist when it feels so right? Conversation on point, smile so bright. I tell me how it feels. And it's so deep, like I'm trying to make a kid. Heart was so cold, you showed me how to feel. A lot of shit changing, but still got bills. I needed inspiration, you came through the chill. I show love back, cause I keep it so real. It feels so better when you with me. So damn right, baby, you can come with me. With your sex.
Right, overall though, super solid session, super nice reads on the week. Right, very solid. Right, just protecting the capital this week in terms of all the funding accounts. Right, which is completely fine. We got a lot of news going on next week. A lot of good potential setups and volatility incoming, which should be pretty solid. And other than that, we're about to wrap it up here. Appreciate everybody for tuning in throughout the week. I hope everybody has a good, safe weekend. And I will catch you guys on Monday, the day before the election. Right? Day before the election. Which should be super interesting, super excited. And we'll see the volatility that comes with it. Right, with that being said, everybody have a good weekend. We'll catch you guys on Monday. Peace out.